Good day, everybody. We are day 21, and we are looking at a flower, and we are looking at the set in stone turtle platform that we have erected, I should say, over the last couple of days. As you can see, we've got a nice rock wall built up. We're going to fill this hole up with soil. We're going to have a nice little beach area. We're going to have some pebble in here, some rocks, and it's basically a little turtle platform for these turtles to, as they grow. We'll have a little log or something laid down in here. They'll be able to crawl right on up in here, come on into here. We're going to take rocks like these right here. Okay, they're flat on the bottom, and we're going to stack them here and create a lip that comes around the edge of the top here. See that lip there? And we're going to a couple more just like that right around through here to create that lip to where those turtles can't. Turtles are great climbers. If you don't know, Scooter's already climbed out of here once. We had a platform over here, and you'd have to check out the Instagram reel. I've got that on Instagram, where I found him actually over there in the corner. He had crawled up here on the platform, and there was a hole right here. There's a rock in there now, but he had went right on out that hole and came right out the back, and right on out he went. So they are good climbers. So we will have a lip right over here. Boom, boom, boom. This will prevent them from being able to climb up here and go over. They'll basically be forced right back into the pond. And I plan on having that. You can see this little hole here. This is where we're going to have a log basically stretch across, maybe come up from right down through there and come right on up. They'll be able to climb right on up that log. You can see there's, who are you? Scooter? You Scooter. This Scooter. Top of the head now is where I gotta look, because the shells are looking too similar. So here's, you can see, that's Scooter. He has more of a black head, one stripe too, and then Scooter has a lot more yellow in the top of his head. So that's how we tell them apart. The water is crystal clear today. Everything's waiting to get fed. That dehumidifier water, that clean dehu water that we've been pumping in here. It's been super humid outside. And cold actually last night, but it rained yesterday, the day before. It's cloudy, really humid outside, so it's really humid in here. So the dehu is working overtime. I actually had to remove some water out of the pond because it was just filling up too much with the dehu water, and the plants aren't taking up as much right now, or they're just at the max of taking up. We're not getting any water in our hole, so that's a good sign. So that means that everything is in balance. If we were seeing water down here, like say for instance when we cut these plants, I guarantee you we will get water in that hole, because that moisture, all that extra water is going to end up down in the reservoir, down to the bottom there. And it'll flood the whole bottom of the reservoir, where the majority of it will end up, because this whole bed is on a 1-inch slope that comes down this corner here. So if you can see how the rocks, the pond is the low point, and the rocks slowly come on up. They kind of level out right here in the back, but then they slant up from here. So they continuously climb on up from here on an angle. It's hard to tell with all the jasmine, but they climb right on up to the top of the mountain there. Everything is sloped down. The pond is the lowest point down there, and everything comes up. So we pump, it's one pump, no filter. The creek is the filter. So we pump up, the water comes out right here, flows on down through the creek where it enters in to the bed system, where it gets wicked up by sand, silt, and clay that's in the creek. So the same stuff that's in the bottom of the pond that we use for the bottom of the pond is what's in the bottom of the creek, minus the organic matter. So, and what I mean by that, I get a lot of questions on what the difference is. And the difference is that this is sand, silt, and clay and organic matter down from the reservoir here on my property. You can see it's got organic matter in it, which is just the leaves, and most of the organic matter though is mixed in fine, super fine, along with the sand and the silt and the clay. So the organic matter will float when you put it in here. So if I was to add water, so let's just add a little bit. I'm just going to put a little bit in my hand, and I'm just going to dribble a little bit in here. And what's going to happen is this sand, silt, clay, organic matter is going to clump up in little clumps. And when it clumps up like that, that is going to, that's the wicking of that organic matter. So I'm just going to bring some of this over here and I'll show you what happens. You can see how it'll that is the wicking action of the sand, silt, clay. So that's organic matter that is doing that wicking. If we remove the organic matter from the sand, silt, and clay, it will not wick like that. It'll wick a little bit, but not pull. You can see how it's pulling. And we can come back here in just a few minutes and it'll all be wet because it's pulling that water up out of the creek. I can't pronounce capillary action. I can't pronounce it. I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to use scientific terms, but it just wicks that water on up. That's what it's doing all the way around this whole bed, around the creek system. And that's how we regulate the water. So then we put the moss on top. So we put that sand, silt, and clay in here, and we overlap it. So here's the creek wall, the edge of the creek. We don't have any here because we don't want it wicking into this part of the bed. It wicks too much. We'll end up too much here at the bottom. It'll wick too much and we'll end up with water in our hole. We've already found that out. So what we do is we just add that sand, silt, and clay around the edges where we want the water to wick up into our bed. So then once we get that sand, silt, and clay underneath this moss, we put it and overlap it on the creek edge and then extend that sand, silt, and clay under the mulch layer. This is before we put the mulch layer down. We put that sand, silt, and clay layer down about that thick over top of our soil, and then we put our organic matter down, like our organic matter, like our straw, our cover basically, our mulch on top of that. We don't want our mulch wet all the time, but we do want that moisture to be drawn in from the creek by that sand, silt, and clay into our soil where it stays moist. We don't have to water. We can just go down just a little bit and it just stays moist, where all the critters love to stay. Look at all of them. There's springtails and mites, and they're just doing their job. And that's what we want them to do. We want them to do their job
But in order for them to do their job, they can't be flooded. Okay, so if I came in here right now and just water like that, all those little springtails and microorganisms that you just saw are going to get flooded, and they're going to have to reset basically. And when they reset, they slow down, and everything slows down. And then once it dries back out and gets to that right moisture level, they'll restart up. Well, what we've done is completely taken away me having to water at all. In fact, if I do anything, I'm just like a light mist, like a morning dew, type thing, just to, if it dries out too much. But it really, if I do that, I realize as soon as I water, if I were to do a heavy water in here, I'm going to get fungus gnats, I'm going to get flies, everything's going to just hatch all at once, because I'm going to add that moisture, and that extra moisture is just going to create a breeding ground for those fungus gnats. So what we want to do is keep that top mulch layer pretty dry, but not too dry. We want to mix in a little bit of that sand, silt, and clay that keeps that moisture wicking in, keeps that correct moisture level, and voila, it's so far so good. This is my first time doing it, so I'm learning as I go. But so far I've witnessed how if we just keep adding organic matter, so we'll have to replace some moss, because all the worms and all the millipedes and the slugs just love to eat the moss, and the worms especially. And the slugs and the worms, they turn it all into castings, which then the plant roots can then come in and just attach themselves and get unlimited fuel for the entire life cycle. And the plants, NPK doesn't matter in here. I had somebody ask the other day, how do you regulate, potassium and phosphorus? I don't regulate. I don't try and regulate anything. All I'm doing is setting the stage for nature to take its course. And once nature has that right amount of moisture, the light, now we have that photosynthesis taking place, we have that carbon exchange, we have all the sugars being pushed down into the soil by these leaves that are photosynthesizing the light, pushing. Like I said, I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to try and speak deep into the scientific realm of what's going on here, but the basics are all we need to know. We don't need to know everything else. And nobody knows everything. That's the crazy thing about this, is we know the basics. Some people have a master's degree in plant science, and some people have a master's degree in soil science, but none of them, I promise you, know exactly what's going on down here. They're all learning. Everybody's learning. And having something like this set up, I believe, for myself and the people that are involved in this project, can really see how everything is growing, how everything is attaching itself to that water source, that never-ending water source. So once I get these, this is only the second root systems that we've had in here as far as the plants go. So the first set, we just cut the plants, plant these right beside. So what we're going to do with these, we're going to cut the plants, plant right beside. We're going to keep building this root system in the soil, never breaking the root soils. This is that male we cut. Look how it's being cut. I mean, it's being eaten as we speak. So the roots are being devoured by microbiology, but you can see that the roots were going straight to the creek. There weren't really none on this side, but they were going right to the creek. And that's exactly what I expected. So that water is being wicked up underneath this moss. Those roots are going right up where all these castings are being made. about the worms and the slugs and all this algae and just endless supply of stuff. Who knows? But those roots are going right to it and tapping in. And it's really cool to see. And then once we get, I mean, think about in 3 years how many runs we're going to have gone through, and we'll probably get 3, 6, 9 runs. Let's just say 10 runs in without having to add amendments. All we're going to do is add our IMO 3, our 4, IMO 5, and then our foliar feeds. Our foliar feeds in these plants are feeding our soil as well. So these plants, when we foliar feed, they'll take in that nutrient, push it down into the soil, bring back up what the microorganisms are releasing to them, and the cycle continues. And that's how this system works. With this land race, and look at this thing. It is just amazing. So you want to check on the sand and silt. We just walked around, so it's completely wet now, and it'll stay that way. That's the cool part about that. So now that will remain moist just like that. It won't overwater, it won't underwater. It'll just stay moist all the time. So the biology inside that sand, silt, clay, organic matter is top notch. That's what we want. Those plants are tapping into that sand, that silt, that clay. The worms run through it. So the worms, the millipedes, all create these castings. Oh, there's one right there. Look at the snails and the isopod and the millipede, all that right there. And that's what's doing it. That's life, and that's what we're looking for. So when we add the moisture, the right amount of moisture, so that this sand, this silt, this clay, this is what's giving us that ability. It's nature's way of wicking that water in the right amount. It's the perfect amount. I don't know other way of explaining it. Then once we add the moss on top, that moss holds that sand, silt, and clay, allows those worms and everything to get up underneath there. Look at this slug eating my fern. Look at him now. All this food, you gotta eat my fern. Or are you eating it? You're just leaving a slimy trail. He's just doing his thing, you know. I don't really want him on my fern though. Bye-bye. By the way, if you want to get rid of a slug, beer trap is great. And slugs can't swim, so I just throw them, pluck them in the creek, and they end up being food or whatever. But a beer trap, if you have a problem in your garden, take a little saucer or a tray or something. IPA works great, works best for me, I found. Just a good IPA. Pour some in a saucer, set it down. Those slugs will crawl up in there and get drunk and have a good old time, but they get drunk, pass out, and that's all she wrote. Good little trick my buddy Marco taught me. Check out the diachondra grass. I like this stuff. I had no idea diachondra would do this, but I'm glad it is. It is a really good filter, it seems like, for the pond. And it's just growing, growing, and growing. There's Pooter. This down here is, you see it just spreading all out. I'm just gonna let it go. Let her spread. Look at over here. Coming on down. Let her go.
Still haven't cut that autoflower out. I was going to do it yesterday and I forgot all about it. I think it's time to go. Not really too concerned about it, as you can tell. But the fast buds, the land race, we've got the Trinity skunk, and the black mojitos, our redwoods of the forest, are looking great. Getting a little bit out of hand on the monsters, but I think we can. I think we'll manage once those buds get big, and we still got a long ways to go. We're day 21 right now, so we still got probably, I don't know, the way I do the light cycle, the way the environment is in here, and I'm expecting most of these to do, 70 to 80 days probably. I'm running a different, the light cycle is 12-12, but I am, well, we're playing around over here, just to say. Experimenting. So I'm adding in I'm reducing the whites and the blues, and I'm increasing the reds and the far reds. So over the course of the 3 weeks so far, we've been lowering these and raising these. And that's what's giving us the stretch. So we lower the blues, increase the reds. We're going to see in the next 2 to 3 weeks, these will get rid of the blue completely, increase the red all the way with the far and the deep, and let these buds plump up. And then probably the last week or two, we'll start to add in a little bit more of the blue and the whites, and decrease the red a little bit towards the end. But we're going to leave the lights on throughout. We're not going to do a 48-hour darkness. We're not going to do that this time. We're just going to let them run all the way through. But we're going to make the room colder. We're going to get down into the 60s. Almost like when we're almost finishing, and we're going to go right into the dry and cure room. We're going to turn this basically into a dry and cure room while they're still on the trees, before we cut, basically. And we're going to do that for about a week, and then we're going to cut and go right into the dry and hanging with them already at that temperature. And we're going to see what happens. You probably won't be able to notice a difference, but then again, you might. I appreciate everybody hanging out this long and watching the video. And today is Sunday, day 21 of flower, and we'll be starting week 4 and finishing up our turtle platform. So hopefully we'll get that squared away, and we're waiting on some pond shield. So once we get our pond shield, once we get everything set in where we want it, concreted in, pond shield should be here tomorrow. We'll make it look pretty and good to go. But we'll see you tomorrow, guys. Appreciate it.